I remember the first time I saw my 12-year-old grandson, Henry, glued to his tablet while sitting right across from me at the dinner table. He barely looked up, and when I asked about his day, he mumbled a short answer without removing his gaze from the screen. At that moment, something in me sank. It wasn't just that I missed his bright smile and cheerful conversation, but I also felt a wave of worry wash over me. I couldn't help but wonder, is this the new reality of grandparenthood? Sitting in the same room, disconnected from the young ones we cherish the most? And if I just let it slide, what would he be losing? And what would I be losing too? There's a common assumption that all technology is beneficial because it connects us. While it's true that smartphones and tablets bring the world to our fingertips, I've seen the other side of that coin. Countless seniors share stories about grandchildren who have become so immersed in their digital worlds that meaningful family time dwindles to nothing more than a distant memory. As someone who has spent decades helping older adults adapt to rapid cultural and technological shifts, I've learned that passively standing by while children get lost in their devices can do real harm to family bonds. Not only can it strain relationships, but it could also lead to behavioral changes in kids that are hard to reverse later on. This is an issue that shouldn't be brushed under the rug. When we let the screen become a grandchild's primary companion, we risk losing genuine moments of connection and guidance. Those priceless times when stories are shared, wisdom is passed down, and mutual understanding grows. Grandchildren might see technology as their best friend and rely less on real human contact. Over time, it could mean a wider gap between generations, eroding that important link that keeps families strong. Today, we're going to explore 5 critical mistakes I see grandparents making in how they deal with their grandchildren's technology use. We'll dive deep into why these errors happen, how they can silently impact the entire family, and, most importantly, what you can do about it. By the time we're done, you'll have a clear path to tackle this modern challenge with renewed confidence so you can protect your bond with your grandkids, encourage healthy tech habits, and ultimately maintain the sense of togetherness every family needs to thrive. The very last mistake we'll discuss is one that almost no one talks about, yet it has the potential to disrupt a child's emotional well-being more than any other factor. What I'm about to share isn't just my personal opinion. Experts have begun warning about the possible negative effects excessive screen time can have on kids' social and psychological development. If you've ever felt that twinge of concern over whether your grandchild is spending too much time on a device, you're in the right place. And if you've dismissed it as just a phase, you might be surprised at how easy it is for that phase to become a long-term habit with serious consequences. Before we begin, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss any future videos. And if you find this information helpful, please type 1 in the comments to let me know. If you don't, type 0 so I can learn how to make these videos more valuable for you. I appreciate every bit of feedback you have to offer. Let's talk about these 5 mistakes and discover together how to prevent your precious grandkids from getting lost in the digital world while also preserving and strengthening the warmth and closeness of your family connections. One of the most common mistakes is assuming children will simply grow out of their tech obsessions. It might seem harmless at first. After all, you might be thinking back to when you were younger and spent hours doing your favorite hobby, eventually moving on to a more balanced lifestyle. But technology is different. It's designed to keep users hooked, and this is especially true for children. It's not just a passing trend that will fix itself. In fact, ignoring this behavior can silently fuel deeper issues, such as shortened attention spans, increased irritability when the screen is taken away, and a diminished capacity for face-to-face socializing. We often hear well-meaning advice like, "Don't worry, they'll eventually tire of it." But Doris, who is 70, learned a harsh lesson about that approach. Her 14-year-old granddaughter, Chloe, was so consumed with a popular online game that she stopped going to her dance lessons. Doris shrugged it off as a temporary obsession. She'd say, "Kids these days are into such strange things, but she'll snap out of it soon." Months went by, and Chloe's dance studio called to check in, concerned because they hadn't seen her for so long. By the time Doris realized something might truly be wrong, Chloe had fully withdrawn from her previous hobbies and seemed disconnected from everyone. except the friends she'd made online. The surprising insight here is that kids don't necessarily grow out of technology addiction on their own. The habit can grow stronger if nobody intervenes. Rather than waiting for them to get bored, it's crucial to set boundaries early. This can be as simple as establishing a rule like no phones at the dinner table or screen time ends by 8 p.m. Small, consistent efforts can steer children away from excessive use before it becomes a full-blown addiction. You might fear pushback or arguments at first, but remember that children actually crave structure, even if they protest it. By offering that structure, you help preserve their social development and emotional well-being. Imagine the relief you'll feel when you see your grandchild rediscovering the world beyond the screen, picking up a musical instrument they once loved, reading a book for pleasure, or simply laughing with friends in real life. That sense of relief comes from knowing you've played an active role in guiding them. It's like opening a door they didn't even realize was there, showing them the richness of life that extends beyond a device's glow. The next big mistake is to assume your grandchildren know more about technology than you do, so there's no point in trying to keep up. This mindset often leads seniors to relinquish their role as guides and guardians of good judgment, especially regarding online safety. When we tell ourselves they're more tech-savvy, so they must know what's best, we set a risky precedent. Yes, kids often pick up the mechanics of using devices quickly, but that doesn't mean they understand the broader implications or potential dangers lurking online. Leonard, who's 78, learned this the hard way with his grandson, James, age 10. Leonard felt lost in the world of apps and social media, so he'd simply ask, "James, is that safe? Should you be on that site?" James would shrug and say, "Sure, Grandpa, everyone uses it." Leonard took that as a sign everything was fine. It wasn't until James accidentally racked up hundreds of dollars in in-app purchases without fully understanding what he was doing that Leonard realized kids might be adept at navigating technology, but they can be woefully unequipped to comprehend the financial and security risks. The truth is, being tech-savvy on the surface doesn't automatically mean having mature judgment. Children don't always recognize phishing scams, deceptive advertisements, or predatory behavior online. As grandparents, you have decades of life experience that children simply haven't acquired yet, and that wisdom is essential for guiding them, even in digital spaces. Don't be intimidated by the fact that they might know how to operate a device more quickly than you. Operating and understanding are two very different things. A practical step you can take is to learn just enough about the platforms or games your grandchildren use to ask informed questions. This could be something like, "Tell me more about how you chat with people on this app. Is everyone someone you know in real life?" Or, "Can anyone join this game? Or do you have to approve them first?" Even if your knowledge is basic, your curiosity and willingness to engage show you care. It also signals to your grandchild that they can't just breeze by your concerns because you're paying attention. You might worry that this will make your relationship more tense, but it often has the opposite effect. Kids notice when you take an interest in something that matters to them. Even if they don't show it outwardly, a part of them appreciates the care. And by asking questions, you position yourself as a caring mentor rather than a clueless bystander. Over time, this builds mutual respect. They'll realize you might not know all the fancy tech details, but you do understand how the world works. That combination of practicality and life experience can keep them safer than any built-in parental controls. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment the number 2 below so I know you're here. Your engagement helps more seniors discover this information, and it encourages me to keep sharing tips that matter to you. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, consider doing so now so you don't miss future videos. A third major mistake is using technology as a digital babysitter without fully considering the content children are consuming. It's tempting to think, at least they're occupied, and I can get a few things done. But handing over a tablet to keep a child quiet can become a slippery slope. The real question is, what's happening on that screen during those quiet moments? Harold, who is 73, used to watch his 7-year-old grandson, Ben, a few times a week. Whenever Ben got restless or fussy, Harold handed him a device. "It keeps him from complaining, and I can make lunch without any fuss," Harold would say. It seemed innocent at first, just some children's cartoons or educational games. Over time, though, Ben discovered other apps where he watched videos filled with aggressive behavior, inappropriate language, and questionable ads. Harold only found out because he walked by one day and caught a glimpse of a video that made him do a double take. He was shocked to see content that was far from child-friendly. This highlights the counterintuitive truth. Silence is not always golden. Sometimes a quiet, tech-occupied child can be more at risk than one who's running around making noise. You might think you found a peaceful solution, but in reality, you could be exposing them to harmful content or habits they'll internalize. Technology is a powerful tool that can shape a young mind in both positive and negative ways. Kids are impressionable, and what they watch or do online can influence how they behave, the language they use, and even how they view themselves. A practical way to address this is to set up parental controls, yes, but also to preview apps and videos yourself. Many seniors worry this will be too cumbersome, but even spending a few minutes exploring the app before handing it over can save you a lot of regret. Also consider creating a list of approved educational games or videos so your grandchild has a curated set of options. This maintains your oversight without completely removing the convenience of technology. Think about the emotional benefit of doing this. You'll have peace of mind knowing your grandchildren aren't exposed to harmful or disturbing materials. Instead of feeling uneasy every time they pick up a device, you'll experience relief knowing you've set up boundaries that protect them. This relief is priceless and strengthens the trust you share. After all, when children sense that you're actively caring for their well-being, they feel safer and more connected to you. Moving on, the fourth mistake many of us make is to lecture grandchildren about technology use rather than engaging them in open dialogue. It's normal to want to protect them by laying down the law. You shouldn't be on that app, or stop playing games for hours. But a barrage of commands often leads children to tune us out. They roll their eyes, nod politely, and go back to doing exactly what they did before. Teresa, who's 82, used to scold her granddaughter Lily, age 13, about spending too much time on social media. The conversation was always one-sided. Teresa would say, "All you do is stare at that phone. Put it away." Lily would grumble but comply in the moment. Minutes later, she'd sneak off to her room and reemerge, phone in hand. Teresa felt both unheard and disrespected, which fueled her anger even more. The cycle continued, causing tension between them. What Teresa eventually realized was that every time she lectured Lily, Lily only heard disapproval and judgment. It created an environment of secrecy where Lily felt the need to hide her phone use instead of discussing it openly. Here's the surprising insight. When you approach the topic as a two-way conversation, you actually gain more influence. Teens and even younger kids often want to be seen as individuals with valid points of view. Ask them why they like a particular app or game. Listen to their enthusiasm or their frustrations. Then calmly share your concerns, whether about safety, time management, or the emotional effects of social media. Instead of imposing a one-size-fits-all rule, consider crafting guidelines together. For instance, you might say, "I understand you want to stay connected with your friends, but I worry about how all those notifications might be affecting your focus during homework time. Let's figure out a schedule that works for both of us." A simple step is to schedule tech check-ins, maybe once a week. During these sessions, you both talk about what's working, what's not, and how to adjust. This builds a habit of communication rather than confrontation. Over time, these open dialogues can help your grandchild develop self-awareness about their own habits, making them far more likely to self-regulate. The emotional reward for you? No more feeling like the villain who's always saying no. Instead, you become a supportive mentor who respects their interests. You'll notice a shift in how they respond to you. Less defensiveness, more willingness to listen. This can alleviate a lot of stress and strain in the relationship. Ultimately, you'll find it easier to guide them toward healthier tech use because they feel heard and respected. If you're still with me and finding this helpful, please comment the number 4 below. Your participation matters, and it also helps me tailor future content to your needs. Feel free to share any specific frustrations or questions you have about your grandchildren's technology habits. The more I know, the better I can help. Now let's talk about the fifth and final mistake, which is one of the most overlooked: believing that your own behavior with technology doesn't matter. It's easy to think that you're not influencing your grandchildren's habits because, after all, they're the ones with smartphones glued to their hands. But children, especially the younger ones, watch you more closely than you might imagine. If they see you scrolling through your phone for hours, responding to messages at the dinner table, or constantly checking notifications, they absorb that behavior as normal. Michael, who's 66, loved keeping up with old friends on social media. His granddaughter Hannah, age 8, noticed that whenever they were together, he'd pause their conversation to check his phone. Sometimes he'd even walk away mid-conversation if he heard the phone buzzing from across the room. Michael never thought much of it. He figured an adult is free to do as he pleases. But Hannah internalized the idea that a phone could interrupt family time whenever it wanted. Soon, Hannah's mother started reporting that Hannah would interrupt her own bedtime routine to check if friends messaged her on a kid's chat app. When Michael realized the parallel, it was like a light bulb switched on. He saw how his casual phone checking normalized that very habit in his granddaughter. The counterintuitive truth is that children learn more from what you do than what you say. Even though they might seem self-absorbed with their own screens, they notice your habits. If you express frustration at their tech usage, but demonstrate the same behavior yourself, it sends a mixed signal. Kids might think, if grandpa can be on his phone all the time, why can't I? So how do you address this? Start by examining your own relationship with technology. Do you watch TV in the background all day? Is your phone always within arm's reach? A simple yet powerful step is to declare certain tech-free zones or times for yourself as well, such as the dinner table or 1 hour before bedtime. Then communicate this to your grandchild. I'm also putting my phone away because our time together is important to me. That statement alone can be very impactful. The emotional benefit here is a stronger, more authentic connection with your grandchild. By modeling good habits, you invite them to join you in a balanced way of living, instead of forcing them with rules that you don't follow yourself. It's a subtle but profound shift. Over time, you'll see that your actions speak volumes about the lifestyle you value, and your grandchild is more likely to mirror that. It's not always instantaneous, but the long-term effect can be a deeper bond built on mutual respect and shared moments that aren't constantly interrupted by digital noise. Let's take a moment to reflect on these 5 mistakes. They revolve around the assumption that children will self-regulate without guidance, the belief that being tech-savvy equates to being tech-wise, using devices as babysitters without monitoring, lecturing instead of engaging in dialogue, and underestimating the power of your own example. Each one carries significant risk for both the child's well-being and the grandparent-grandchild relationship. Yet each one is entirely avoidable if you approach the issue thoughtfully. Imagine a near future where you and your grandchild sit together, playing a game on the tablet that you've both researched and approved. You talk about the characters, discuss strategies, and laugh at silly moments. Then you set it aside and cook a meal together or go for a walk. This balanced approach allows technology to be a shared interest rather than a divisive wedge. It's all about showing them a sustainable way to engage with the digital world while still valuing real-life experiences and connections. The stakes are high. Ignore these mistakes, and you risk creating a pattern of disconnection, secrecy, or even worse, exposing kids to content and interactions that can harm their development. But address them, and you'll foster a healthier, more respectful relationship where technology becomes a tool, not a tyrant. Take a moment to envision the peace of mind you'll feel, knowing you've helped safeguard your grandchild's emotional and social well-being. I hope you can see that each of these points connects into a bigger picture. By staying vigilant, setting boundaries, and engaging with curiosity instead of judgment, you'll transform what might be a source of anxiety into an opportunity for deeper understanding and closeness. Take a moment to think about which of the 5 mistakes resonated most with you. Did one make you remember a recent interaction with your grandchild? Perhaps you realized you've been using your phone as much as they do, or even more. That's good. Awareness is the first step toward change. If you're not sure where to start, consider focusing on one single action you can take today. Maybe you'll decide to have a genuine conversation with your grandchild about what they're playing or watching. Maybe you'll take the time to learn one new feature on your own phone to better understand how they navigate their apps. Or perhaps you'll commit to a tech-free dinner where no devices, including yours, are allowed at the table. Small steps are easier to manage and can lead to big improvements over time. It's also crucial to remember that addressing these issues sooner rather than later can prevent larger problems down the road, like emotional distance, misunderstandings, or even financial mishaps if children make unmonitored in-app purchases. The longer such habits go unchecked, the harder they can be to reverse. So if you feel that sense of urgency, it's for good reason. Think of this as strengthening the threads that hold your family tapestry together. Each action you take weaves a bit more stability, warmth, and unity into the relationship you share with your grandkids. We'd love to hear from you. Which one of these mistakes struck you as something you really want to address? Leave a comment below and share what you plan to do differently. Is there a specific boundary you'll set? A conversation you've been meaning to have? By writing it down, you're already making a commitment to take action, and your insights might help another grandparent who's facing a similar struggle. If you found this content helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with other seniors who might benefit. Your support not only helps this community grow, but also ensures that more grandparents become aware of the hidden pitfalls in their grandchildren's online lives. Every share could be the nudge another family needs to spark a meaningful change. Before we finish, I want to leave you with this thought. You have more power than you realize. No matter how tech-savvy or tech-obsessed your grandchildren seem, they still look up to you. They need your wisdom, guidance, and love. By stepping confidently into your role as a thoughtful gatekeeper of technology, you provide a safety net they can't create for themselves. So believe in your ability to adapt, to learn, and to protect the cherished bonds that make family life so rich and rewarding. Thank you for spending this time with me. I look forward to seeing your comments and hearing about your experiences. Let's continue to learn and grow together, ensuring that technology becomes a bridge rather than a barrier in the lives of the grandchildren we treasure. I'll see you in the next video.